Hey, it's Chico, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about the most important part of this entire real estate wholesaling, and that is negotiation. Because here's the thing, if you could do the marketing and you could start generating motivated sellers, but if you can't negotiate and put yourself in a position where now you've got a really solid deal in your hands, and now you can go to other investors and offer them your contract so that they can take it over, you're not going to make any money. Because if you don't get this right, then you're going to pay too much for a property. And you might go back to the seller and try to get a price reduction later on, but at the end, you're already working uphill. And really, I always say that you make your money when you buy, meaning that the moment that you negotiate and you get the right price for the property, you've made your money. Getting a buyer and selling the deal, it's a formality because it's going to be a great deal and it's going to have a lot of equity, and that's what we need. And so how does that happen? It happens by having great negotiations with sellers. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you some very specific tips on your conversation with a seller when it comes to negotiation. I can't cover everything, but I'm going to give you some tips right now that you can actually get off this video, start making some calls with the property owners, and be able to have better conversations with them. And again, the most important thing out of all this here, and I wrote it down here, is I want you to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell and give me a like, okay? Please. No, please. Do it. Just do it, okay? I'm asking you to do it. I'm being nice about it. I'm making all these videos for you. All right, let's get on with the show, shall we? And remember, if you are interested in learning how to find motivated sellers using my digital bandit sign technique, which is putting out small little ads, the same like bandit signs that you would normally put out, in the middle of the night, because the code enforcement people are going to catch you and, cause you all these problems, etc. You don't have to do that anymore. You could do them all on the internet, on Facebook. And I teach you how to do that using my digital bandit sign technique. And so in the description is a link so that you can get a training that will show you how to do that. All right, let's get on with the show. So I wrote it down in my little notebook again. This is the moleskin. How do you pronounce this? I don't even know how to pronounce it. All right, it's a very inexpensive, it's a very small notebook that is a relatively high price for what it does, okay? Number one, do the best you can in any way possible to get the seller to give you their price first. I know that's hard. Part of the process is you have to be okay with the friction associated with that back and forth with the seller, because many times you might ask the seller, well, gee, how much are you asking for the property? And they say, well, I don't know. You tell me. You're the one that called me. You're the one that sent me the postcard. And then we don't want that friction, and so we back off. You have to be okay with pushing a little bit, with testing them and feeling uncomfortable a little bit with the fact that there's a little friction there between you and the seller. You have to be okay with that. And so how do you get the seller to tell you the price first? There's a couple ways. Number one is you ask more than once. Now, one of the things that I recommend is that don't wait till the very end of the conversation to ask for the price. So let's say that a typical seller call is 15 minutes. So if you have that whole conversation, and at the very, very end of that conversation is when you actually ask the seller, hey, okay, great. So what are you asking for the property? And if the seller says, I don't have a price, you tell me, then you're stuck, because now it's at the end of the conversation. Versus, what if you strategically ask a bunch of different ways throughout the whole 15-minute mark of the conversation, and now you're going to put yourself in a position where you are going to get a price from the seller because you're going to ask him multiple times in multiple ways over the period of 10 to 15 minutes. They have a better chance of getting a price from the seller versus waiting to the very, very end when you're like, okay, I've talked about everything that I needed to talk about, so I guess I'm stuck. Now I have to come up with a price. And now you're going to have to say, oh, you know what, let me do the research and call you back. So now the way you can do that is right off the bat, when you talk to them over the phone, they say, okay, great. Tell me the address of the property. Terrific. And just what kind of property is it? Is it a 3-bedroom, two bedroom, etc.? And they tell you the basics. Okay. And what were you asking for the property? Right then and there, they haven't told you anything about the condition, anything. And they might say, well, I don't know. You tell me what you would want to offer. I said, hey, no problem. I'd be more than happy to do that. Let me ask you this. What's the condition of the property? And so now they tell you the condition and everything else. And so then you say, so what do you think the property is worth? That's another way of asking the price, right? What do you think it's worth? And they might be like, well, I don't know. What do you think it's worth? So again, you're asking that. Now, another way to ask the same question to the seller. I'm going to give you a couple ways to kind of frame the price, because part of it is asking directly, but the other part of it is insinuating and then drawing them out. Okay, so for example, you could say, more than happy to make you an offer. Typically, Mr. Seller, a lot of the properties we buy need a little bit of work, need a little bit of fixing up. So instead of you doing the work, fixing it up, spending the 6 months to get it sold, then you sell it to someone like me, and I take care of everything. And so as a result, we typically are looking for a little bit of a discount for doing that. So based on what you're telling me, typically the properties that we buy that are similar to yours, typically buying them in the range of $75,000 to $105,000, $75,000 to $95,000. Is that kind of what you were looking at? Is that the range you were looking at? So then now you're drawing them out, right? Many times when you say that to them, they'll be like, no, you're crazy. I mean, Zillow has it for $225. I got another agent listed the property across the street from me for $200. So, and mine has golden faucets, so it's definitely worth more. And all of a sudden now you figured out, okay, they want full retail value. Another question, this is kind of a little bit of a tidbit when you're gauging motivation, just related to price, but also kind of gives you an idea of what the seller's thinking, is ask the seller, how long have you been thinking about selling? How long have you been thinking about selling? If the seller tells you, well, I haven't been thinking about it, you called me and you sent me the postcard, so I figured I'll give you a call. This happens more with cold calling, because if you're calling somebody out of the blue, they might say, well, I haven't been thinking about selling, but you called me, so what do you offer me? Versus if somebody says, well,
testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 and 3,
toying the idea around and getting it, selling the property and kind of getting rid of the rental property because it's a little bit too much of a headache, I'm too old. So that's a sign of motivation. It's a sign of, okay, great, you're thinking about it. You've been thinking through the process and what it requires and looking at your options. That's a much better seller than somebody who just says, oh, I'm not, but since you're on the phone and you called me, then give me an offer, okay? So strategically asking throughout the entire span of the conversation, hitting them a bunch of different ways. And again, we talked about just asking them directly. What do you think? How much are you asking for the property? What do you think it's worth? Well, I typically buy properties that are similar to yours between this range and that range. Is that what you're looking for? Another way to phrase it is, some of the sellers that I've spoken with recently, similar properties to yours, they've been asking somewhere in the range of 85 to 95, but we haven't really found something that we like yet. But that's kind of what we've been getting offers for us to buy their property. Is that what you were thinking? So you see what I'm saying is that you're playing around with, you're asking them directly, but then you're kind of jabbing at them to see if they come back to you with some sort of price, right? Or at least an inkling of where they're at, where their mindset is. All right, it's a little noisy out here, so I decided to maybe use a mic like this. It might be easier for you to hear me. So let's talk about item number 2. And item number 2 is that when the seller eventually does give you a price, then what you want to do is you want to allow them to negotiate against themselves before you negotiate with them. So what does that mean? So when they give you a price, you can many times a simple question that you can ask them is, Mr. Seller, you're looking for 175 and need some work, and you want to get 175,000 out of it. Now, a quick tip: when you talk about price, when they're telling me a price, I say 175. When I'm telling them back a price, let's say, well, I'm going to offer you $155,000. I'll say the entire word, versus if they're coming back to me with a price, I will say it shorter, right? Because I want my offer verbally to feel that it's bigger. I'm offering you $135,000. I'm not gonna say 135. I'm gonna say $135,000. So is that the best you can do? Can you do a little bit better? What if we took the property with the tenants there? You didn't have to worry about anything. What could you do? What could you do on the price? And sometimes the best thing to do with a seller is just to pause and say and just and almost say, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Seller. I mean, could you do a little bit better than that? I mean, we're buying it as is. We're gonna close on it quickly. But it does need repairs. We'll be willing to take the property without you having to take the 6 months that it's gonna take for you to get this whole thing done with a realtor. I got other sellers that are offering me similar type of houses, need more work than yours. And so I'd rather buy yours because I don't want to do that much work, but still the prices are much better deal. So can you do anything better for me on that? So again, what I'm saying conceptually is that you're not giving them a direct price and say, I'm going to make you an offer of, $75,000, take it or leave it. I can give you $125,000. If the property owner says $200, that's what I want. Man, best I can do is $175. You don't do that. You ask them. I'm trying to this. That's not a price that I can do. Now, if you have to give them a price, what you can do is set the frame lower. You can say the houses that the sellers that we've been speaking with, they've offered us houses that are a little bit smaller than yours, but they've been in the range of about 150. I know that you want 200. I know you're not going to take 150, and I like yours better because yours is a little bit bigger, doesn't need that much work. However, I can't do what you're asking. Is there anything you can do for me on the price? Again, I can close quickly. I can get this thing out of your hands so that you don't have to worry about it anymore. And so I'm willing to work with you in those parts of the transaction, but can you do something for me on price to see if I can make this happen? Because I want to be able to make this happen. I want to be able to take this to my underwriting department and have them approve the deal. So again, you're asking them to negotiate against themselves, not necessarily you go head to head with them in terms of the negotiation. So let's talk about number 3. Now, if you are forced to give a price, if you're absolutely forced to give a price, what you can do is I would recommend give a price. Typically, you can do 50% of Zillow value. If in doubt, give 40% of Zillow value. Give a price and then be in a position to be able to kind of backpedal a little bit because it's going to be significantly below what they're looking for. So let's say, for example, the seller may want 200, but he hasn't told you he wants 200. So now what you're going to do is you're going to offer them you're going to make them an offer. Let's say that you're doing the best you can't get a price. And then what you can do is you can do one of two things. You can either tell them, I'm going to offer you $100,000 for the house. I will pay you $100,000. So you could do it that way. But I recommend that you buffer what I call buffering the offer, which means is that you have to make it that it's not your fault. Your hands are tied. Instead of saying, I'm going to offer you $100,000, you can say, typically, in the area, we've been buying houses between $80,000 to $100,000 or between $95,000 to $105,000. Is that the number you were looking for? we've spoken with a few sellers, and a lot of the houses that are being offered to us are somewhere between, depending on the nature of the work, between 80 to 105,000. Obviously, if it needs a lot of work, it's on the lower end. Were you looking at those kind of numbers? So what you're doing is, you're not saying I'm going to make you this offer. What you're kind of saying is, it's not my fault that the sellers are offering us houses for these prices. I'm just telling you what the market is doing. And so then, therefore, it's not my fault. I would love to offer you more money, but my hands are tied. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're positioning the offer as it is coming from you, but it's because of circumstances that are outside of your control. The market, the competition, the days on the market, the sellers that are, your underwriting department. My funding sources won't approve it over this much because they're going to tell me that I'm overpaying. Those are all reasons why you're making that offer, but it's not you, it's the circumstances. The next thing is go up in small increments. You're gonna, if you make an offer, here's what I would do. If you make an offer and it's significantly less than what they're looking for, and I would go up in really small increments. Say that, for example, the seller wants 200, you made an offer of 150, they almost fainted, and they say, and then I would say go up to 155. Go up to, maybe I can do 155. What you don't want to do is go for 150 to go say, okay, I can offer you 180. Because then you look like an ass, because what you did is you just lowballed them. So now you're sticking to your guns. You're like, I'm not lowballing you, I'm just telling you what I can do. Now let's say that you were willing to go up to 180, and you've gotten him to the point where it's a really good deal at 180, but now you don't want to go from 155 to 180. So what you can do is say this. Here's the thing. Based on what you're telling me, I'm going to go to my underwriting department, tell them all the information about the property. I think that this property is a little bit different than the type of properties that we've been buying. So I think we can pay more, but I can't guarantee it. What I can do is this. Let me get off the phone with you. It's going to take me about 15, maybe 30 minutes. Let me get a hold of somebody, and let me see if I can get them to agree on that price. If I can, then we have a deal. But however, though, I want to make sure that if I can, I want to go to them, but I want to go to them knowing that on your side, that 180 is a price that you would take. And if that's the case, then I'll go hard and I'll do my best to see what I can do. And then you can always, now what you're doing is you're going to come back and then position it as, look, they said that they could do it because your property doesn't appear that it needs that much work. It's bigger, and it's actually in a different location of the subdivision, which actually makes it better. So for those reasons, they said, you know what, we could pay more for this property. Now, they told me, however, that they really wanted the deal at 170. And I told them that you really were stuck at the 180, and that's what you really wanted. Would you consider 170? And they might say, no, I told you 180. I said, well, okay, let's do this. I'm going to write it up at 180, and I know that if I present them the contract and the agreements and everything else, and know that you're serious about selling and you're willing to go ahead and go through with the deal, then I know they'll take it. And so therefore, then we can put the deal together. So let's go ahead and let's get the agreement signed, and that way I can push to get it through. And so that's another way of doing it. So what I'm saying to you in this is that it's not as cut and dry as just like, oh, how much you're asking? 200. Okay, I'll offer you 150. And they say, okay, great. Yes, I'll take the 150. It never happens that way. There's a conversation. There's a process that needs to take place so that now you can get to that eventual point of them of selling the property at a price that makes sense. And so those are the tips that I had for you today on that. There's a lot, this is an area that I could do a video that would be 2 or 3 hours long on the entire process, step by step. Tell me this. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to write in the comments What is it about seller conversations that you struggle with the most? What is the hardest part for you that you would love to get some help in and figuring out, so that when you're on the phone with sellers, you have a best chance possible of making a deal happen? Where are your stucks in the seller conversation? What are you dreading that the seller's going to ask you and you have no idea what to say? Tell me that. And then what I could do is I could do some additional videos for you on those topics in order to help you out. So let me know if this video was helpful. Let me know if you got some ideas in terms of how to position your offer, how to speak with sellers, and how to negotiate with them properly so you get the price that you need when you're negotiating and trying to get a deal done. And as always, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check out the links that I have in the description. I have a great training on how to find motivated sellers on Facebook. This is Chico, and that is it. I'm out of here. I'll talk to you guys soon.